What if I told you people don't just walk away because they grew apart? What if the story you've been told about time, distance, or life getting in the way is only half the truth? Here's the reality. People don't abandon you randomly. They leave when your presence starts revealing something they're not ready to face in themselves. It's not about your worth. It's about their discomfort. Sometimes your growth holds up a mirror to their stagnation. Your honesty threatens their illusions. Your emotional depth stirs a silence in them they've long avoided. And instead of confronting that, they run. This isn't something we like to admit. Society prefers clean stories. It just didn't work out. We went separate ways. But beneath these polite explanations, there's something more primal at play. Something darker. Something buried deep within the psyche. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." That includes walking away from people who force them to look inward. When someone abandons you without closure, often it has less to do with you and more to do with the storm you unknowingly stirred inside them. You didn't cause the storm. You just reminded them it existed. Let's go back for a moment to ancient Athens. Socrates was called the gadfly of the state because he questioned everything. He made people uncomfortable. He forced them to think, to see their contradictions, to confront their own ignorance. They didn't thank him for it. They killed him. Because when someone holds up a mirror, especially one that reflects the parts we've buried, our first reaction is rarely gratitude. It's resistance. It's fear. And often, rejection. You see, abandonment is not always about the relationship failing. Sometimes it's about truth being too heavy for someone to carry. This is especially true in emotionally intimate connections, friendships, partnerships, family ties. The more you try to show up as your full self, the more threatening that self can become to someone who isn't ready to meet you there. Ever notice how you can lose people right after you start healing, right after you set boundaries, right after you begin to truly speak your truth? That's not a coincidence. When you stop shrinking, those who were comfortable with your silence often start to pull away. Because your light, your clarity, it exposes their shadows. And not everyone is ready to see what's hiding in the dark. We all carry a shadow. Jung called it the unconscious side of the psyche, the parts of us we deny, suppress, or project onto others. And when you refuse to play small, you become a living spotlight. Suddenly, people can see their own shadow reflected in your presence. And it terrifies them. They don't say, "You remind me of the version of myself I'm afraid to become." They don't say, "Your honesty makes me realize how much I lie to myself." They just disappear. Or worse, they blame you. They say you've changed, that you're too intense, too sensitive, too much. But really, you're just too real. And realness, in a world that thrives on masks, is often treated like a threat. Let's look at the psychological mechanism behind this. When someone is emotionally immature or unwilling to do inner work, they instinctively project their unresolved issues onto others. Instead of asking, "Why does this make me uncomfortable?" they say, "This person is the problem." It's defense, not logic. It's survival, not truth. And it's this emotional projection that often leads to ghosting, stonewalling, or sudden emotional withdrawal. Not because you did something wrong, but because your existence poked at something fragile within them. This happens in romantic relationships, in friendships, even within families. You might be the first one to break a generational cycle, the first to say, "This ends with me," the first to prioritize mental health, self-awareness, and conscious living. And that very act of choosing something different can be viewed as betrayal by those still shackled to the old way. You're not abandoning them, but to them your evolution feels like abandonment. So what do? They abandon you first, to preserve their illusion, to silence the uncomfortable mirror, to return to the comfort of their denial. Here's a painful truth. Not everyone is meant to walk the entire path with you. Some people are only meant to teach you the weight of your own worth by leaving. And yes, it hurts. The silence, the unanswered questions, the void they leave behind. But what's worse is how we often turn that pain inward. We think, what did I do wrong? We replay every word, every interaction, searching for where we failed. But the failure wasn't yours. The pain wasn't punishment. It was information. Sometimes the dark reason they left is because you were starting to shine too brightly, because you grew, and they didn't. That doesn't make them evil. It makes them human, just like you. But you don't need to carry their unprocessed wounds as your identity. You don't need to shrink to make them stay. You were never too much. They were simply not ready. And maybe they never will be. You see, abandonment is not just a personal event. It's a collective wound. Many of us have been conditioned from childhood to equate love with performance, acceptance with silence, and connection with self-betrayal. So when someone leaves, it reactivates those early scars. The ones where we were punished for being ourselves. The ones where being too emotional or too intense got us cast aside. But there is strength in seeing the pattern. There is power in choosing not to repeat it. You don't have to make yourself more digestible to be loved. You don't have to camouflage your mind, your heart, or your soul to be accepted. The ones who can meet you at your depth, who don't flinch at your honesty, who don't retreat at your clarity, those are your people, and they're rare, because truth is rare, because emotional maturity is rare, because most people are still running from their own shadow. Let them. You stay. Stay with your truth. Stay with your depth. Stay with your evolving self. Because the ones who abandon you aren't leaving you behind. They're falling away. And what's left behind in their absence is space. Space for something real, something whole, something that doesn't require your silence to survive. So the next time someone walks away, don't immediately blame yourself. Don't scramble to fix what was never broken. Sit with the silence. Ask what truth your presence may have triggered. And then, bless them. Thank them. Let them go. Their exit may just be the universe's way of clearing the path for someone who sees you and stays. Because not all loss is loss. Sometimes it's liberation. And if this message stirred something in you, if it reflected a pain you couldn't quite name before, don't let it dissolve into the noise. Sit with it, feel it, share it. If this resonated, take a moment to like the video. Subscribe for more insights that speak not just to the mind, but to the soul. And in the comments, tell me, what truth did this unlock for you? Your voice matters, your story matters, and you're not alone.